Citibank had 100 billion in its SIV originally, allegedly.
Yeah.
And it brought in around 50 billion. The other 50 billion has disappeared. Is that going to show up as a loss on Citibank's books?
No, well, we don't know. We don't know how much they've written off by now.
Well, if
Because,
it's off balance sheet, the loss wouldn't show up, right?
but they have to bring it back because the CPAs will lose their license and they'll be liable under Sarbanes-Oxley if they're dealing with a public company. So I think we'll know the size of it and where these amounts of money are. The audits are complete by March 31st.
This year.
Yes.
So we should be seeing a lot.
We should be seeing the results by
information,
that
so.
time. Because if the auditors are not going to risk giving up their livelihood and their jobs and lawsuits,
Okay.
since the auditors will be forced by law to go through these things, we should have a pretty good idea where is this stuff and who's got how much.
Okay, there are all sorts of rumors about Citibank having massive write-offs and the number keeps
Yeah.
changing. There was actually an article that came out today, or
I read this,
how accurate do you think that is, or do you think it's even worse?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
Does anybody know?
I don't think any one person knows. I think
Okay.
if you're speaking, if you're working for one of the big 4, 5 accounting firms, 8 if well, as many as we have, people there will be getting ideas. They won't dare to act on it stock-wise or talk about it. But they should be getting the ideas because they're the ones that are going to have to the boards of directors. I know a couple of the directors of the bank, and they're worried. They won't talk, but they're worried, they're concerned. I don't think that the directors of a lot of these companies that have been using derivatives and some of the things know the extent of what they have been approving. One of the biggest problems, in my opinion, and I've testified to Congress a few times, this world is awash with derivatives. They are not regulated. There are trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of them in interest rate swaps. And some of the
There's
other-
at least half a quadrillion in total. Quadrillion.
Yeah, I mean, there's...
And it's more than half a quadrillion.
It's more than that.
Yes.
And there is a report for anybody that gets a little bored. The Controller of Currency, that's the Federal Bank Regulatory Agency. They put out a report every quarter as to the number of derivatives and which banks have which kind of the large banks, the large holders. And you'll be surprised. I mean, because it just, there is no regulation. I have called for, I haven't gotten it, but I've testified in Washington, I've said it on television many times. I think we should have global securities regulations the way we have global banking regulations. Because what happened in the case was the hedge funds, they couldn't borrow over a certain percentages in the US, so they go to London where you can borrow anything the bank will lend you. So I ran for office once and it's terrible to stand in a room and ask people for money.
Sure.
I mean, it's humiliating.
But most people in Congress seem to not have a lot of trouble doing it.
No, they don't. They don't. They don't.
And it seems like the amount of money now than in politics, and as compared to 30, 40 years ago, it's gotten less. It's grown exponentially.
Oh, it's,
And it seems like special interests are controlling basically the federal agenda. And that's why we cannot get the national debt under control. Where is the limit? How much money can we actually borrow?
how much interest can we send abroad? How much money can we send abroad to pay interest?
Do you have any number? I mean, there has to be a maximum number where foreigners will not lend us any money anymore, and that's it.
Well, they stopped for a while buying bonds.
Yeah,
That
in
was-
August, there was actually an
Yeah.
outflow, yes.
There was an outflow. That was their way of saying, hey, guys, we do have the ability to do this. You've got deals collapsing now because the private equity things were done based on unlimited credit, and the banks are not financing them.
What impact will that have on the economy and the markets?
On the markets, it will take away some of the luster because you have to look at how many deals there were, private equity purchases, which inflated or increased the price of stocks, which people then put back into the market and bought other stocks with.
And wasn't this similar to the leverage buyouts in the 80s with Michael Milliken et al.?
Well, Mike was financing a lot of them with junk bonds.
And the financing is taking place how? Now, in what way?
The banks, but the banks couldn't find people to buy the bonds.
So they were making their own bonds that are effectively junk bonds, even though they're not being sold.
So in some cases, they say that they're now going to go out and try to sell the bonds.
You think that will be successful?
Well, they'll be sold, but at what price? I was complaining because most of the deals were being done 7, 8, 9, 10 to 1. And one institution, that's debt equity. That's debt to the equity they put up. And they said, well, we just saw one deal at 12 to 1. Now that does not, that kind of leverage does not give company a room, the buyers room, to go through a normal bad quarter. You know, if you're in business, you're going to have some soft quarters. That's business. It's not going to go straight up.
How much leverage do you think is in the
Too
system?
much.
And
That's what scares
could
me.
this totally collapse the system? Can the Fed, can the central bank actually control this? They seem to think they can. Read at it.
I think, I don't see a total collapse of the system.